Hey everyone, it's Miss K with Kaysville Einstein Academy, and we on our second panel discussion talking about parents' emotional impact on children. We have some beautiful panelists that we have on today. It's great that it's all females because we are in March and we're wrapping up Women's Month. So National Women's Month. So I'm gonna let them introduce themselves, and then we're gonna go into what we're gonna be talking about today. So let's go from Ms. B. Chapman. Can you introduce yourself for me?
Good afternoon, everyone. So glad to be here with you again. I'm B. Chapman. I am a motherhood and lifestyle blogger and content creator, also known as Chat with B. I am a mom to three, one of which has gone. They have to get older at some point. We have one that we are sending off to college in the fall. So Michigan State, here we come. And then we have a 7-year-old going on 17. So I'm excited to be sharing some of my experiences with all of you alongside these lovely ladies that we have on the panel.
Hi there, I am Mrs. Lakeisha Namani. I am a kindergarten readiness preschool owner in Houston, Texas, and I'm also an early childhood trainer. So I just come today and I'm just very excited to share with you guys just knowledge about just from an education standpoint in the child growth and development field. So I'm excited for this conversation.
And good morning, my name is Amanda Lynch, and I am a former classroom teacher turned children's book author. I'm also a yoga and mindfulness teacher. B, I can relate to your life experience. I have a 22-year-old, 14-year-old, almost 7-year-old, and a 4-year-old. So things can be a little crazy around here. I'm sure my girls will probably pop in while we're on. I'm very, very excited to talk to each of you this morning. I'm very passionate about growing mindfulness in communities of color and in families. And so thank you for having me this morning, Ms. K.
And we have Miss Laura Jones.
Sorry about. Good afternoon. My name is Laura Jones Malloy. I am a registered mental health counselor in Tampa. My practice particularly specializes in the age group from children from 2 to 7, where I go with parents into parent-child interaction therapy, where we address compliance and non-compliance in behaviors, timeout, and minding of children.
Sorry, everyone. I've been having technical difficulties. So we're going to dive into it. I just want to put a disclaimer out there. It's not for parents to feel like there is a negative stigma of how you should be a parenting style. This is a panel discussion to allow parents to have a platform to speak, to ask questions, to get tips and suggestions from the panelists that we have today. So I'm quite excited about it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about today is about parenting styles and decision making. So I know for now, a lot of parents, especially first time parents like myself, are having difficulties figuring out how we should bring up our kids. So my first question is, how can we have effective quality of parents? And what role modeling strategies can we provide to the parents to problem solve and figure out different tips to raise our kids? Anyone wants to go first?
So I'll answer. So I do not have any children yet. And so, but one of the things that I will say is just kind of tuning in with your child to know what your specific child needs. From a teacher standpoint, I hear a lot of times where parents say, well, my first child didn't have to do XYZ, and understanding that each time you birth a child, that child has a different personality and different experiences. So understanding to meet your child where they are. And a lot of times we talk about not comparing children to other children, like your friends' children, but I think it's something to discuss as parents, to not compare it to your other child, because again, they all have their different experiences. So just kind of tapping into what they may need. So that's looking at your child, that's listening to your child to know, like, how do you, it's not playing favoritism, but knowing what part of you do your child need the most at that time. Would anyone else like to jump in on that?
Or I think for me, my son is 22, and then again, my youngest child is 4. And he says all the time, my youngest child can get away with anything. She's the baby. But it's not that. It's just that I'm a much different parent than I was 15, 20 years ago. You know more, you know better, you do better kind of mindset. I try to come to my kids from a place of patience and understanding. Also understanding that a lot of times if they're having, my youngest child in particular, a behavioral issue, that she's trying to communicate something and it might be an unmet need. And recognizing that at this stage of life, because I'm I'm older than I was then, I have to put my own needs first. And that was really a mindset shift for me, because I initially started off, my kids came first, their needs came first, their activities came first, but I was burning myself out, right? I was like running myself ragged. And so I had to recognize that if my own choices weren't allowing for me to be mindful or to be balanced, that was going to spill over into my responses to my girls too. And so, yeah, I think for me, just having things come more into alignment for myself. I can tell if I'm not working out, or I'm not eating healthy, or I'm not sleeping. I'm more irritable, and I'm more likely to react versus responding to what they need. And so just recognizing that we're all doing the best that we can, and just giving yourself grace is another thing that I would suggest, especially right now where things are so unpredictable.
And I can tap in a little bit on this as well, because what I failed to mention when I introduced myself is that I don't have any biological children of my own. I am a custodial stepmom in every aspect. And with our youngest, the only mom that she knows, due to some unfortunate things that had happened. And, when I came on the scene, I'm like, I got to do everything right, super mom, super this. And like, I found myself really getting into a place to where I was just, the complete and utter essence of grumpy, and I was no good to myself or anyone in that frame of mind. So as time went on, and I learned more about, parenting, because I basically became a parent overnight. It took me years to basically engage the maternal aspect of what parenting consists of, for me, because it's different for everyone. And the more that I learned how okay it is to balance, how okay it is to, prioritize self-care and being aware of what I need in the moment so I can be the best me, that put me in a position to be the best me for them. So that's something that, I really encourage everyone to consider.
Beautiful. Yes, we have different dynamics as parents. Like you said, we have stepmoms, we have people on this panel that they have children, but they take care of children. And we have different dynamics of age groups. So that's trying to toggle which one can we do, which one, how can we parent in that way. So the next thing I will talk about is knowing yourself as a parent. So that kind of aligns with parenting styles. There are areas in which we want to feel confident about ourselves. What can we identify, and how can we be primary responsible for toddlers and kids? So what do you think as parents, especially the moms on here, what are your expectations of your kids at this time frame as a parent?
I have really high expectations for my children. And sometimes I wonder if they're too high of expectations. But they haven't failed me yet. So I first expect them to just be kind and compassionate people, to have empathy towards others. So just really looking at like those character traits, whether they're rooted in church or wherever people are in their spiritual lives. So I think that those will probably be where the root of my expectations are. I expect them to understand when they leave my house that they're not just representing themselves, but they're representing our family, right? So you can't just go to school and act a fool. Like, you're a representative of me and of our household. And at the end of the day, the only things that you have is, your name and your integrity. And so, I definitely expect those things. But then I also just really want them to be happy with the things that they choose to do. My son, he went to Morehouse when he graduated from high school. He didn't want to stay. He wanted to be a professional dancer. And I just had to be okay with that. It doesn't matter that I was a teacher or educator, or that for me, I have a very high value on post-secondary education. That's not what he wanted to do. And so just checking myself there. But then I also expect them to like stand up for the rights of other people. I look at my kids like they're my greatest investment and gift to the world. And so I think because I look at them as an investment, I've just been able to sow seeds a little differently into them. I sometimes wonder if I am expecting them, expect them to work hard. I expect that I'm not the hardest working person in this house. And so, but they seem okay so far. And I also, want them to just be balanced in terms of their physical, mental, spiritual health. So, yeah.
One thing that's crucial is tuning into your children's emotions. And that's the primary theme for this panel discussion, because we growing up, I'm pretty sure every one of us has different experiences of upbringing. And so what is key is being emotionally available for our kids. And so the next question I would like to kind of zone in is, as I guess the educator and the mental health counselor, what are different ways that parents can tune into their kids' emotional signals and cues?
Okay, so how can parents? Oh, I'll let Laura. You can go.
I'm sorry. So your question was, how can a parent with the emotional needs of the, so I parents have like a lot of things going on. A lot of times is that we often want the kids to do, like we tell kids do that. But sometimes young children don't understand like commands. So sometimes the parents gets frustrated when you said, I thought I told you to go in X, Y, and Z. Well, I forgot. Well, then the parent becomes frustrated. So what I've found is that when you break things down into simpler tasks for children, they seem to be able to comply. And with the compliance, your child, so that gives them like motivation to want to do better, right? So what, and and with that being said, is when you're telling a child to do something, it's kind of like being direct. Want them to do. We often want our children, when I say be direct, they're saying helping you understanding exactly what you expect them to do or how you want them to behave. Using a neutral tone voice, not them showing frustration, not the parent showing frustration when they don't do what they're asked to do.
Oh. I just want to say something right quick to that. Another way that I feel like parents can pour into children emotionally is that they have to be good emotionally. And I think a lot of times we bypass that. And so understanding that you have to deal with what's going on and what those past experiences you've had so that you don't bring that into your circumstances as a mom. Not saying that you have to have it all figured out, because whoever has it all figured out, but just being in tune with, if you've had any trauma going in your life that you haven't dealt with, you want to make sure you deal with that so that you can be that whole person, so that you can love and give your all. You know, if you had these different traumatic experiences in your childhood, you want to do your best so that your child does not have traumatic experiences in their childhood. And that just goes back to being able to tune into just your life and just the experiences that have happened, and not being ashamed. I think a lot of times as women, and especially Black women, we feel like we have to be the strongest at all times. And the fact of the matter is, yes, I may be strong 90% of the time, but that 10% where I need a moment, letting parents know it's okay for you to need that moment. Because even a superhero takes their cape off and no one to put it back on. So I think that plays a large role with being able to help children emotionally. Thank you.
Great input, great input. So the next thing I wanted to kind of keen on is, what are some coping strategies, how that kids can identify that they're going through the emotions, especially like you said, we get frustrated, we get stressed out, and then your mom lashes or your dad, or whoever the significant other or parent is, lashes out at you. So what are some skills that we can provide the kids to effectively deal with stress, and parents as well? Like, it goes both ways. What are some skills or strategies that we can provide kids to cope in moments of stress, or they just emotionally can't deal with things?
Okay.
Go ahead.
I just was going to speak very briefly from a teaching standpoint. One of the strategies is validating their feelings. For one, letting them know that it's okay for them to be sad or mad or whatever it is that they're feeling. That's the first step, is letting them know it's okay to feel that way. But then once you let them know it's okay to feel that way, then you want to begin to teach them what's the appropriate way to respond to that feeling. And so I think just, understanding that I know you may be upset, so you want to throw things, you want to scream, you want to kick, but that's not how we handle our feelings and our emotions. So I think that's a good place to start when we begin to discuss that.
Lakeisha, I think you're exactly right. And Laura, I noticed in the chat you mentioned not parenting while tired. And so I think, just piggybacking off of you ladies, one is this, as a parent, just noticing what your triggers are, and are you being triggered by something that your child is doing based on your past experiences, right? So sort of like what Lakeisha said. Then also making sure that your own needs again are being met. So you're not tired, you're not hungry, you're not having things that you need to take care of and attend to for yourself, and then trying to respond to your child's behavior. But also, one thing that I do with my former students, but also with my own children, is labeling what your feeling is and noticing where you're holding that in your body. And so I call it big feelings. Like in my book, Breathe Baby Breathe, we talk about big feelings. And then I also talk about, with kids, preschool up, because I also taught high school, why their brains respond. And so giving them that language to talk about their amygdala, their prefrontal cortex, and talking about where they're pulling from during the times where they're flipping their lid, right? So you're not wanting to have those kinds of conversations while a child is in the middle of a meltdown, but really doing that pre-work so that they understand that too. So creating situations that are predictable and consistent so that you know what to expect next. Like my 4-year-old knows that every Saturday morning after ballet, we're going to stop and get bacon. If I don't stop and get bacon for her, I know she's going to flip out in the car, right? Because, that child could eat bacon every day. But Saturday morning is the only day that she's allowed to go to McDonald's. And so, making sure you stay consistent in that routine. Then also not allowing your child's weather to become your weather. So sort of like what Laura said, right? So if my child is having a meltdown, that's not a time for me to also start having a meltdown. So I might need to walk away from you. I do a lot of breath work for myself and for my kids. I do a lot of scanning the room or having candles or essential oils or lavender, things like that I know I find calming. And so really helping kids to develop some of those inner strategies like breathing, just being able to say, I need a break, coloring, any of those kinds of things, I think are really helpful in helping kids understand how to manage their emotions.
These are amazing tips. Like these are tips that we need as parents to know how to manage their emotions, especially because you don't want it to turn down to the child, and the child it makes these years, especially from the young age of like 3 to 5, even younger than that. They see we do and they mimic that. So these are important ways to make sure it's a very great technique. I'm learning that myself because I'm a young mom with 7-month-old as well. So I think this is an addition to what we were talking about, learning to talk to our kids. What are ways that we can encourage or talk effectively to our children to know that, hey, this is not okay? What are some techniques and strategies that we can, or words of encouragement or songs or gestures that we can communicate to our kids? Anybody wants to input? Or we can go on to the next question.
Was your question, what are ways we can offer encouragement to you? I do a lot of affirmations with my kids too. So that's one thing. And then also, I think Laura mentioned reaffirming, or maybe it was Lakeisha, how they're feeling. And so doing that too, just validating, what they're feeling, even if I don't think it should be a big deal and it's a big deal to them. But yeah, we do a lot of affirmation statements in our house. In the morning after they get dressed, they're in the mirror saying, I am beautiful, I am powerful. Just reminding them to also show up as their authentic selves, letting them know that it's okay to not always be nice, but they always have to be kind. And so, really just pouring into them in that way.
For us, the primary thing for me is to meet them where they are. We've talked about the fact that each child is different, whether it's their stage of development or just their innate selves. So meeting them where they are and paying attention to their cues to give them what they need is something that we really hone in on, no matter how large or small it seems. And then encouraging them to use their words, more so our youngest than the oldest, because he's 17 now. But with her, particularly because of the developmental stage she's in, she's a sponge, as most 7 going on whatever age kids are. And, we try as best as possible to just sow life into her and to help craft experiences that will help and not harm. And so we're really big on using words. When she was younger, I remember she would just cry and whine, use your words. And as that continues to go on, we'll encourage her to use I need language and I feel language so that she can really be in tune with what it is that she's feeling and what it is that she needs, so that, she can not only articulate that, but see how using that I need, I feel language manifests in what comes next.
Yes, affirmations are a major key in kids, especially. I host affirmation Mondays for kids. I get different offers, and I believe that's how I kind of got Amanda on here, because I was pitching off affirmations, and she ended up doing the Black History Month segment for me. But it's crucial to pour into our kids, especially. I know everyone has a different style of managing problem behaviors. And so what ways or skill sets that teachers, mental health counselors can offer to strategize to minimize the problem behavior? What techniques can we teach them to kind of not hone in on it, but do better?
All right, so some of the suggestions that I give is, and of course it's from a teaching standpoint, because my teaching philosophy and my parenting philosophy is two separate different things. But from a teaching standpoint, I do want to clarify that. From a teaching standpoint, one of the things that we can start doing is talking to them in the positives. So instead of saying you can't or no or stop, instead of saying stop running, please walk, because they hear what they hear. So if you're only saying the negatives to them, then they hear run. They hear jump, they hear climb. So just kind of talking to them in the positives is one technique. And then another thing is, when they are in their moment, they're having that big feeling, that big reaction. You are just calm. You don't feed into it, right? So if you give too much energy into it, then it's like a show. All right. So if it's not a dangerous situation where they are harming themselves or harming others, I let children have tantrums. I tell them it is perfectly fine for you to be upset about that. When you are done being upset and you've taken your deep breath, we can come talk. But I let them know that it's okay, because one of the things that people have to understand is children are tiny humans. They have personalities, they have feelings, they like stuff and they don't like stuff. And the more that they get older and they are aware of what they like and what they don't like, they begin to talk. They begin to verbalize that. They begin to respond to that. So it's our job to know how to respond to it, because we don't want them to feel that they can't feel this way about it, because if that's truly how they feel, that's fine. Let's talk about that. But this is not how we're going to handle it. We're not going to throw toys. You're not going to kick me. You're not going to pull my hair. This from a teacher standpoint. You're not going to do any of those things. Let's calm down and let's have this conversation. Thank you.
It's so funny that you mentioned that, because when our youngest was younger, she always says, when I was small, sis, you're still small. But when she was younger than she is now, and she would be upset, like just crying and pouting. They're like, okay, are you still upset? Yes. Okay, well, let me know when you're not upset anymore. And we still do it to this day. Are you still do you still have an attitude? Yes. Okay, well, let us know when your attitude is done, and then we can pick up where we left off.
And I tell my girls all the time, like, listen to your body. So if you still have an attitude, or you're angry, or you're mad, then that's fine. Like, those are completely healthy emotions. But what you can't do is become hysterical. Like, if they came in here right now, they would say that to you. And so, we talk about what big feelings are and how we hold them. And, when I feel anxious, I feel it in my chest and that kind of thing. And then these are some appropriate responses. But like, these are things you have to practice when your child is not in the midst of, throwing toys all over the place. And then also just, setting those boundaries, just like you two said. It's not okay for you to hit. It's not okay for you to do this and do that. But still allowing them to have some autonomy over how they feel.
Yes, I do agree. So, from a parenting standpoint, let me probably articulate this question. So, from how you were raised up, and now I'm sure that you have kids and whatnot, how do you see the difference in parenting, and how would you change it to support your kids now? Anything that you would want to change that you wouldn't bring into your child that you want to be providing positive or not negative? Because we are the first teachers of the children. So what are some things that you were raised with and you don't want to bring into your relationship as a parent?
Okay, so I have just been doing a lot of reading and a lot of research because I do plan to start my family soon. So I've just been interested to just kind of talk to different people who've had just different experiences and upbringings than I've had. And so one of the things, there are a lot of things that I want to try when I do become a parent. And I say try because I don't know if it'll be effective or not. In my mind, it sounds like it could be, but it's really an experience type of thing. But I do want to give my children the opportunity to speak. When I was a child, it's no, because I said so. And I was left not really understanding why. And maybe if I understood why I wasn't able to go to this friend's house or I was not supposed to do this, maybe I wouldn't have snuck to do it because I didn't really understand the why behind it. And so I want to give my children the opportunity to explain in a respectful and appropriate way how they're feeling. And if I'm saying that they can't have, I don't know, cookies for breakfast, I'm explaining to them because I want to make sure that you're happy. I want to make sure that you're healthy and just really giving them the gift of being able to speak. So that's like one of the things that, just for just my, the parenting style that I grew up with my grandma, with my mama, my auntie, it just was like, boom, this is the law of the land. I pay bills around here and this is what I said, so, I just kind of want to have that different relationship and understanding with my children. But like I said, it definitely has to be respectful, and it definitely has to be appropriate. They will learn when to say and how to say, but just giving them the gift of speaking. Thank you.
Anybody else has any input before we move on to the next topic?
I think one thing for me is just giving myself permission to serve myself first. Like I didn't see my mom do a lot of things for herself or go on vacation without us or, put her needs before ours. I mean, come back, baby. I did see my grandmother doing that though. My paternal grandmother was always on a vacation. I mean, she's a world traveler. And so just like watching how grandma navigated through the world by always being, putting her needs at the center of her life. It's just something that I know that is different for me. And I want my girls to see me in particular do that. I want them to see their mother as someone who has her own life outside of them. My son watched me sleep outside the dance studio while he was in class and run myself ragged. And if it looked like he needed, something, he was going to have it before I did. And I just felt like that was really an unhealthy message. That not only I was sending him an unhealthy message about women and their relationship to men, but also to my girls about centering, having other people at the center of their existence instead of centering their own needs. And so I think for sure that that's something that I've worked really hard to change, and really looking forward to doing some traveling without these children when COVID restrictions lift.
I definitely agree. I've started early. Like I said, I have a 7-year-old, and I try to implement different alternatives. I'm like, I'm gonna get my face done. Can someone watch my son? So because if I'm not happy, then it kind of feeds off of him. Because at that age, they're feeding off of us. So I want to make sure that I show that, like, hey, you need to set aside time for yourself as well. Be in a happy mind state, because I don't want that negative stigma to be on him. So that is very important to have support, especially moms and dads are included too. We can't forget the dads. There are some single dads out there who have to take care of their kids, and so showing them that, hey, you need to set aside time to unwind and understand what's going on with your mind is very important for us. So the next thing is, how can we provide positive discipline for different behaviors? How can we identify and provide positive discipline and encourage self-discipline too? So I think that would be for Laura or Amanda or Lakeisha too. Thank you.
Okay. So when we talk about positive discipline, we're talking about positive behaviors. So when we look at positive behaviors, we always want to give label praises when they do something good, right? If you tell them, like I said, directing, please put your feet on the floor, right? They cry, thank you for putting your feet on the floor, or you did really good listening, right? We always want to enforce what they're doing good. Sometimes when the kids have a negative behavior, the first thing is to ignore, right? You go back to what you want them to do, the behavior you want them to display, not using the words don't, no, stop, quit. You want to tell them directly what you want them to do to promote positive behaviors. And when they comply, you give them what we consider a labeled praise. Right? Because kids, adults want to always know that they're doing a good job, right? So if they don't, good job for listening, good job for on the floor, good job for picking up your toys, right? How do they know they're doing good, right? How do they know that? So coach, when I teach parent-child interaction, we teach positive reinforcement, which leads to labeled praises, which leads to reflections, which leads to behavior, right? And in the same time, minding the behavior, like we're saying, give me this blue block, right? They give you the blue block, you say thank you for listening, right? And when they don't, then it goes into whatever you say, did you not hear what I said? Then you go back to the positive. You try to you're teaching the child what to do. And when they comply, you give them
Laura, you may do this off. Were you finished speaking? I believe so. Important topic is, ever since opening panel discussions, one of the important things is to talk about
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
It's okay. It's important to transition them into that school. So this will be for everyone, because I'm pretty sure everyone has a role to play. And how can we have them succeed in school? What are some positive ways parents can be involved in the child's experience? What are some non-school ways, and what are some activities that we can do to be more involved in having a child successful in school? Another question is, identify and discuss effective steps that the parents can take to foster that relationship between the teacher and the child for academic success. How can we implement different ways for parents as well as teachers to make a working relationship for the child?
I could tap in on that real quickly, and this is based on some things in this vein that I actually experienced as a child, but really didn't remember until my mom reminded me, or my parents rather reminded me, when I assimilated into my parenting role. So when I was younger, we lived in New York, and rather than put us into the public school system, my parents opted to put me into a Montessori school. And in doing so, what my parents shared with me is that, whenever something good happened, whether it's grades, behavior, whatever the case may be, the way that director ran the school is that she always encouraged parents to not necessarily go with like a material thing, like, oh, you got straight A's, here's a PS5, but something more of like, whether it's like your favorite food or something that, once it's consumed or once you're done with it, you kind of move on. So that, as there's not always just this carrot of a game or a Roblox or whatever the case may be. The child, they consume it, they forget about it, and, they kind of move on. So that's something that we do here, whereas, she takes her NWEA test, or, she has a good grade. All right, what do you want to eat for dinner tonight? What is something that you want to have that's your favorite? Oh, you want to get Thai food? All right, let's go. She eats the Thai food. Everyone feels good. Everyone feels great. We kind of move on, because what I don't want to happen is that, there's this association that is created between, all right, well, if I get good grades, then I can play Roblox. If I don't get good grades, then I can't play Roblox, because then, the attention is not really being placed, from my view, on doing what you're supposed to be doing. It's what can I get for what I do? So that's something that we've kind of done to strike that school life balance, because, especially with the pandemic, it has been a rocky road between, having to do e-learning, and we've worked very hard to fill gaps at home, just because, it's hard. As an adult, I'm tired of being on Zoom, so I can't imagine how the kids feel. So that's just one strategy that we've done. And I've noticed that the reaction that we get is not any greater or any less than if we were to give like a tablet or an iPad or something like that. Like, she views this ice cream as gold, so that's just a strategy that we do, and it's been working out pretty well.
All right. For the teacher standpoint, what are some things that you can tell the parents to make them successful in school, any activities or any games that you do, or anything you do to the parents to create that positive relationship between you and the child?
So one strategy I used to be a pre-K and kindergarten teacher, and now I'm a preschool owner, so I'm kind of on the different side of it. But just making sure that when you are communicating with the parents is not only for negative. If every time you pick up the phone to call that parent, or every time you send a note, or every time you just have any type of communication with that parent is all negative, then that parent is not going to want to talk to you, because they feel like, okay, I already know what she's about to say. So I just always tell my teachers, make sure you mix it up, okay? She don't want to hear about little Johnny behavior every day, because I'm sure the behavior that Johnny doing at school, he doing at home, so she know. All right. So what else? He did something positive at school that day. He did something great at school that day. Share that with that parent, no matter how small it is, so that you can begin to create this relationship. So when you do have to come with her for any type of challenge that the child is having, she feels that it's coming from a great place, because you guys have established that foundation. And I see a lot of times, we don't do that, because, it's easy just to, oh no, she got to know about this, but just taking a moment to just kind of go through what does this mom need to know, and can I possibly keep that to myself? Like, he had a bad day today, but it was such a bad day that I have to tell mom today, like, really kind of wing that. And also just having talk to the parents about different ways that they like to receive information. So from an owner standpoint, we send text messages, we send printed out memos, we talk verbally, we may do some emails. Like these are just different ways because you have parents who receive information differently. So you can't assume that this parent don't want to communicate with you. It could just be that your style that you're using to reach them is just not preference. It's not a convenient form of communication for them, and that's why they're not responding. So just taking some time to get to know who your parents are will help to build that relationship. Thank you.
All right. Anything from you, Ms. Lynch? Any techniques or coping mechanisms for parents to provide success in their children, especially in the school aspect?
I think just for parents to just communicate. Sometimes, you know, as an educator, we can make assumptions about parents, whether they, you know, show up or don't show up or show up in different ways. And so when oftentimes some of these parents have a lot going on, I know I have a lot going on. I'm not going to make it to every conference or every event or, you know, and so just making sure that you just keep those lines of communication open. I also, especially with my 14-year-old, just really let the teacher, her homeroom teacher in particular, know like what my expectations are from them as teachers, but then what I'm also planning to do as a parent, because it has to come from a place of like team building and us working together to ensure the success of my children. And so just having the teachers know I'm going to show up for good times and bad, but we have to have those communication lines open.
All right, Ms. Jones, do you have anything that you want to add to that, especially from the mental health?
I would say for parents, just make sure you know your child, and also communicating with teachers. Teachers seem to, like Lakeisha said, always have so negative, and they seem to build up all the negative, never get a chance to see the positive in the child. So some parents take that as, okay, your teacher called, and then your teacher called, it has to be something bad, right? And so the parent is already frustrated. So the child does not get a chance to say, but that didn't happen. Like I was acting this with it because, like I said, a lot of children, and child in particular that I work with, it seems that his behaviors have gotten to be bad in school that the teacher never sees any positive in him anymore. And so he's always getting the bad reports. And the mom, I said, ask the mom, do you ever ask about what he did positive today, right? Don't allow the teachers to always tell you, like Lakeisha said, to give you how did. And that seems to help sometimes.
All right. So we're tracking along. I hope everybody's enjoying what these panelists have provided us. It's very useful tips. I'm quite grateful for it because I'm taking tips from them as well. You never know what the nuggets and that you can get from each person. So the next thing is, as parents, how can we, and they might be, some of the topics may be related or may seem monotonous or repetitive, but if it's from different angles. So they're talking about resolving conflicts. What are ways to resolve conflicts and manage them? What are some conflict management or resolution as parents that we can provide, especially from having a different type of parenting style or personality?
My girls, my younger girls that just came in, are complete opposites.
Are you speaking
and
of
they are
conflicts within the family?
Oh,
I
go
think
ahead,
Laura
Emma.
wanted the question clarified. Are you speaking of conflicts with others or conflict with parent, or I think Laura was trying to get clarification.
Oh, so it's conflicts with amongst each other. So, for example, if you're going to resolving conflicts, and you're in front of your children, how do you resolve that without putting a negative stigma, and then resolving conflicts with that child? So, this, I guess, is a two-part question.
So my girls are complete opposites, and the way that I handle conflict is very individual to each of them. For my older daughter, any hint of her being in trouble is going to send her directly into crying mode. For my 6-year-old, and so when conflict arises, or when I feel like she hasn't, a lot of times it's her listening ears are still growing in. So a lot of times conflict arises with us because I've told her to do something and she hasn't done it, even if I've said it 5 times. So, there are times where I have to send her to her room or just simply sit down and have a conversation with her. But even amongst their relationship with each other, it's all based on just talking and sort of identifying how, and I will say to my kids too, like, this is how you made me feel when you didn't do this. Or in the mornings when it's time to comb hair, mommy's not yelling at you all, so why are you yelling at me? This is how this is making me feel. And so really trying to help set the stage for them to understand that I have feelings too, right? We all do. And so just taking it from that approach, which is very, very new for me. With my older kids, just wanted them to do stuff because I said so. And that's kind of how I was raised. Like, I don't really want to have a conversation with you, Ava, who's 14. I just want you to clean your room. And it doesn't matter why, And so I had to do some reflection, though, about, like, why am I being triggered because she's asking me a question? And so, and it's frustrating, mindfulness can be frustrating. It's not all roses, but really just trying to, again, identify, how you feel in the moment. Sometimes walking away from each other because sometimes cooler heads have to prevail, and then just modeling the behaviors that I want them to exhibit. And so if I'm screaming and yelling, they're going to be screaming and yelling.
Ms. Laura, you want to answer that?
I go with.
You got it.
Okay, I'm sorry, my technical difficulties. My screen keeps freezing, so it's freezing the mic. I would what Miss Amanda said. Trying to parent while we're yelling and screaming, because the energy matches energy. We all know that. So if we can come to a place of calmness, family meetings are something that are scheduled. You at the table together and we sit down and we talk about what good this week, what didn't go so well, anything we need to discuss, the expectations for the week, what's going to happen during the week, and sometimes that alleviates conflict because the child has that time then to know, like, this is what's expected, right? So anything outside of that, you already know what to expect. We already discussed it as a family. And so I often encourage families to have these family meetings where everyone.
Yes, I think that is a key thing that we haven't been doing. I think it's especially kind of tailored after how we were brought up. Like Lakeisha said, Amanda said, just go to your room, do what you got to do, and don't ask me about it. And so I think it's giving them that platform to talk, giving them that guidelines to provide, this is expectations, this is how it's going to play out, and having the opportunity to express themselves as well as to why they're feeling that way is crucial in today's stage of parenting, especially. We have so many things that kind of affect us in parenting. Now that we in COVID, it's like, okay, we need to make sure we're balancing work and the home environment and whatnot. So yes, having those is very important to do. And like Amanda said, kind of giving them that basis behind it. So we're winding down, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We're soon going to be wrapping up. It's about 5 minutes down. So the last thing I may ask from you beautiful ladies is, let's see. Let me get the question. That was, try not to be repetitive. The last thing we might have to talk about is respect and caring for others. Okay, building that characteristics. What are some things that we can implement for our kids to show respect and caring, that mutual care and respect from each other? That's important in any aspect of life, from whether you're a mom, dad, down to your siblings, to your teachers. What are some things that we can implement to kind of build on mutual respect and caring for others?
One thing that I share with everyone, and I can probably be a lot more intentional about sharing it with the kids, is really revamping what we've all been taught to be is the golden rule. I think I can probably speak for most, if not all of us, in saying that we came up saying, you know, treat people how you want to be treated. But the fact of the matter is there's a respect factor there that is negated if you treat people the way that you want to be treated. You know, like Amanda said, it's important to be kind, but at the end of the day, sometimes people just don't want you to be kind to them. And you have to respect their boundaries in that regard. So encouraging them to treat people the way that they want to be treated. You know, taking the time to learn them and to learn how to interact with them. I think for me personally, could have saved a whole lot of heartache and a whole lot of headache. So just taking it back to the basics. And I think that helps to build on what they will eventually learn, are interpersonal skills, right? You're learning people, you're learning how they move, how they operate, what makes them tick, what makes them blow, things of that nature. So simply treating people the way that they want to be treated, and clearly communicating how you want to be treated as well, so that there's no question in the matter of what you expect.
I wanted to say another good way is just by modeling respect. So showing them that they're worthy of respect. So that's one way. But then also allowing them to see your interaction with others so they can see how you treat others. But I definitely agree with Ms. B about that mutual respect, matching energy. You do want to teach them to be respectful. However, I will not be teaching my children that it's okay to continue to do for others. And if they don't do for you, if they're rude to you, that it's okay. No, it's not. So I definitely love that conversation because that's teaching them their worth early, just by that simple thing. Because one of the things that I say as a preschool teacher, when they say, oh, such and such is not my friend, I can't make a child be a friend with anybody because at the same time, they are tiny humans. They have a right to feel how they feel. But I do say if you don't want to be their friend, that's fine. But you cannot treat them like that. So you got to be kind, but that don't mean you have to be road dogs with them. Like, no, like I teach early the boundaries. So I think that's a very great conversation and point that we've started. Thank you.
I think you hit that on the head with teaching about boundaries. I know for me, I spent a long time just, people pleasing, and even when I didn't really want to do something, well, I don't want to disappoint them or I don't want them to think this. And so really now at 40, just getting into the headspace of just understanding that no is just a complete sentence, right? And so, like you said, Lakeisha, like with my girls last night, one of them wanted to do Just Dance, and the other one wanted her to play Barbie, and so it was this huge thing. And I'm like, she doesn't have to play with you. Like, she's not being mean. She wants to do something else. And so, just understanding that, just setting those healthy boundaries and saying, being able to listen to your own wants and needs, listening to your body and saying no. And I think kids learn all of that by what they see us doing, because it doesn't matter if I'm telling you all day to set boundaries, if I'm not setting boundaries, if I'm still not showing up as my best self, if I'm still not being authentic to my own self and I'm hiding who I actually am from other people. I can tell you all day, be authentic, but if you don't see me doing it, you're going to do what you see me doing. And so I think that those would just be some things that I would offer as we close.
All right. Yes, I do believe. I was like that. They ask you something, I gotta do it. And now, with my child, I was learning to just start saying, I can't do that. I'm tired. You have to just be genuinely honest. Like, look, I really want to do this, but this is getting a little bit overwhelming. So I'm trying to respect you and respect myself at the same time. So it's going to be a no for today. So we're going to be wrapping up. Do you have anything that you would like to leave the audience with? Any input, anything that, especially from a teacher's perspective or a parenting perspective, that you would like to leave? Anyone want to?
Well, I just want to say that I definitely enjoyed this conversation today. I would love for everyone to continue to have this conversation and to see how important your emotional support that you give children matter. I think a lot of times, just in my experiences, I've seen the adults in our family focus on the financial aspect of support. And that's important too, don't get me wrong. It costs money to pay for things and do all those different wonderful things, but it's important to also, discuss how we treat our children. They didn't ask to be here, we brought them here. So it's important to treat them kind. It's important that we understand that we are helping to create a human that's going to go into this world and prayerfully be productive. And so the experiences that we provide them at a young age, it carries and it carries and carries with them. If you just think back, whenever you're talking to somebody and they have a lot of trauma, not all the time, but most of the time, a lot of that is dated back to their childhood. They able to remember this small moment that for us as, parents or potential parents, it probably just was like, okay, I said that, I did that, and it was done with. But to that child, it lasted forever, because that's how impactful our words are and our decisions are to our children. So just keeping that in mind as we journey along, and also always be seeking knowledge. Like, I'm always confused. Like, I'm recently married. And so it's like we study to be in school and to learn more when it comes to our career and our profession. But when it comes to marriage and to parenting, we just assume that we just gonna have it. And that's not how it is. You have to seek it out. So and you're not gonna agree with everybody's style is different. What works in one home may not work in yours, but just seeking out that information so that you can grow, so you can see and always strive to just offer different experiences. And it's okay if what you offering or what you doing in your home is different than what your friends are doing. Okay, this is what works for you and yours. And that's the type of experience that you want to have for your children. So be confident in that and be bold in that. And so that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Great. That was great input. I agree.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really appreciated that. I tend to talk in this tone all the time when I'm talking to my kids. And I'll have, my friends and even my husband sometimes say, well, when I was small, my mama would have never let, and so, making those kind of comments. But you just have to be confident in your own parenting. Know that you're not always going to get it right. We're not perfect. We're human. When you make a mistake, just apologize for it and move forward. Don't get stuck there. Right now things are very hard for lots of people who are working while home, parenting while home, trying to make sure their kids, maintain some sense of normalcy during this global pause. And so just give yourself grace where you need to and keep showing up for them and for yourself.
That was good. Whew, y'all are too tough acts to follow. So I'll throw my little 2 cents in the hat. What I've started doing with our youngest, which I think is probably vastly different to what my parents did with me. Mom and Dad, if y'all are watching this on my Facebook, if it happened, I'm sorry, I don't remember. But what we started doing with her, what I've started doing with her is if we're having a situation to where there needs to be some sort of correction to the behavior, I've started actually having her be a stakeholder or provide her input in what she thinks should be the repercussion, just so she doesn't feel like we're always the ones, oh, well, we're going to take this away or we're going to take that away because you did this. And a perfect example is the other day, she was, she got a little beside herself. And I said, okay. So what do you think should happen here? And she just kind of looked at me like, huh? I said, well, what do you think should happen here? Something has happened that should not have happened. This is not the way that we do things. So, what should be the repercussion? And her repercussion is that she should not have, it was Roblox. Let me tell you, please do not let y'all children download this. It is a nightmare. But she got a little out of control with her desire to want to play it. And she said, well, I think maybe I shouldn't play it for 10 days. And I was like, okay. So she came up with her own punishment for it. And, it's not something that we levied on her. We gave her the room to use critical thinking skills to determine what an appropriate course of action would be following the inappropriate behavior. So she put herself on punishment for 10 days. I mean, she got it back before that because spring break came, but just letting her be a key part of the process. And it was interesting to see how she knew not to give like a suggestion that was like ridiculous. Like, oh, I shouldn't have it for 15 minutes. Like homegirl went to 10 days. So just helping her build those critical thinking skills is something that we do, and allowing her to be a stakeholder in that process.
Laura, anything for you?
So I know our lives are busy. And in my practice, I encourage parents to give your child 5 minutes you can do it a day, but if not, 5 minutes of special play. It promotes social skills. It promotes communication. It promotes team building skills. It promotes so much more. Giving your child 5 just of your time. Nothing competitive. You can sit and do a color activity. You can, during that time, ask them about how their day was in school. You can do Legos together. But 5 minutes of special playtime, you would see that your child would enjoy spending 5 minutes with you as to going and buying things. That's the most freest things that your kids will love to do. 5 minutes of special play.
Great input. So I am quite grateful for everyone being on this panel. Thank you for taking some time out of Saturday, because it is Saturday and I know everybody has things to do. For those watching, overview and overcap is what I learned is just be mindful of who you are. Don't take everybody's input and opinions to heart because they're not you. Remember to open communication is key. Overall, don't let your past experiences with your parents kind of hone on to what you're going to bring on to your child. Take from it, because I'm pretty sure everybody's parents raise them or break them in a different aspect. But parents are also learning as they are growing, and it's different aspects of that stages as we grow, from being their parent to being a grandparent to just it changes and evolves. So just keep reminding yourself. I saw this amazing quote, and if I can remember, it says, "Forgive your past self. Remember to pour into your present self, and build your future self." Something along those lines. So just always remembering as a parent that it's always a learning process, regardless of who you are, of what dynamics you come into. There is not truly a wrong way to parent. It's just how you pour into your child over you. So I'm so grateful. So we're wrapping up. It's Miss K, and we're going to be having our next panel discussion a month after this. So hopefully not in May, because in April, but May. So it's every other month. So I'm so grateful everyone joining on here. Have a wonderful Saturday. Panel stay on before we leave. And see you later. I hope you guys enjoy here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.